The first of these 6 domains is to think beyond drugs. And the main emphasis of this domain is to get prescribers to think about and to practice and to get familiar with non-drug therapies, and actually to develop the instinct and the impulse to use non-drug therapy first. Now, of course, the people who developed these principles were experienced prescribers. They prescribe drugs all the time, every day. But they do make an effort, especially with a newly diagnosed condition or maybe a self-limiting condition or a variety of even chronic problems, where evidence suggests non-drug therapy is as effective or more effective and safer than drug therapy. The second domain of conservative prescribing is to prescribe more strategically. And what this means is to develop a few strategic approaches to being more careful and cautious. And among these are things like prescribe a smaller number of drugs. You don't have to be expert in hundreds and hundreds of different drugs. The fewer drugs you prescribe routinely, the more experienced you'll be with that small number of drugs. Don't be too eager to switch medications. Don't start more than one drug at a time. The third domain in conservative prescribing is to maintain heightened vigilance about adverse effects of drugs. Now, this is really one of the core ideas that motivated the development of this set of principles in the first place. The critical part of conservative prescribing is maintaining a heightened state of awareness and vigilance for adverse effects. The fourth domain of conservative prescribing is to approach new drugs and new indications cautiously. Of course, it's exciting when new drugs come on the market with the promise of offering new benefits to patients and perhaps relief of suffering that previously couldn't be relieved or cures for diseases that previously couldn't be cured. But history teaches us that new drugs are risky and dangerous in a couple of specific ways. The randomized trials that led to the approval of new drugs are often done on relatively small, carefully selected populations. And the effects and safety observed in those small selected populations may not generalize to your patients. At the same time, history teaches us that the total adverse effect burden of a drug doesn't actually appear until maybe 5 to 7 years after the drug has been on the market, when large numbers of diverse patients have been exposed to the drug. The fifth domain of conservative prescribing has to do with shared decision-making or participatory decision-making. The idea is to work with patients to develop a more deliberative shared agenda about the goals of therapy, about the risks of therapy, about the legitimate expectations for benefit. The sixth and final domain of conservative prescribing principles encourages prescribers to think about the broader long-term effects of drug use. These include obvious examples like the addiction to opioids that resulted from widespread exposure to opioid pain relievers, or antibiotic resistance that resulted from overuse of antibiotics to treat viral infections, or the appearance of low levels of a large number of different drugs in the water supply because of either discarding drugs or from the elimination of drugs into the environment. So there you have it. Those are the 6 domains for the principles of conservative prescribing.